Hello. Okay, guys. I've been told whenever I'm ready, I must begin. So I think everybody's back in. Can you all hear me at least? Oh, has my screensaver kicked in? That's great. Okay, I'm Andrew Wilson, and I'm from Lucid View. You'll see 4 of my colleagues have joined me here today. We've got T-shirts like this. It's going to be quite easy to guess what business we're in. I said I won't embarrass her, but we're Lucid View, and we're in the porn business. Notice my colleague's got a Got Porn T-shirt on there. We're very approachable. Please come and talk to us afterwards. Okay, guys, it's not my favorite subject, to be honest, but it's a very important one. I've fallen in love with MikroTik many years ago, discovered it on the wireless user groups in Joburg and Pretoria, and have learned a lot about that. But in our business, we have learned about internet and clean internet. So when I say we're in the porn business, we really are in the business of blocking porn and cleaning it up for our kids. That's really what we're going to touch on over here. It's not always a nice subject, but 10 years ago, I spoke to a young man named, well, shame I shouldn't say his name, but he was 8 years old. 8 years old young man came up to me, and I was talking to him, and I was trying to figure out why he had no airtime. I'm just going to try and get my screensaver not to be so aggressive. And at school, he went to a good school in Pretoria, as everyone goes to in Pretoria. And he said, no, it's quite simple. Everyone uses their airtime to browse porn. And he's 8 years old. He says, you can tell, at school, all the kids huddle around together in a corner. They all watch porn together on the side. And then the airtimes go, and they go to the next friend, and they watch porn. And he was 8. And I said, porn? Like, are we sure we're talking about the right thing here? Are we pornography? What do you mean by porn? And he looked at me, and he said, porn, in fact, normal porn doesn't do it for me anymore. I can only watch lesbian porn. Yeah, rough. 8-year-old. And I realized that internet is a double-edged sword. I spend so much time doing connections and making it flow and making it connect, and most of us love it. I mean, the IPs, the ports, getting it to work, getting latency down, getting games to work, getting all the good stuff of the internet to work. But we can't ignore the bad. And the bad is actually quite real. And that's what I'm going to touch on, that I've actually learned about over the last years. Connectivity and internet today is not, or shall I say, one can't just have internet. One has to have clean internet. And I'm almost as bold as saying that the future of ISPs, WISPs, etc., is in clean internet, not purely connectivity of internet. And we tend to look away on this with regards to pornography. Pornography is addictive. Now, I'm 45, so I wasn't exposed to porn access in my early 20s. But the stats of the youngsters today, of the exposure that they have to pornography, and what we are teaching young boys and young girls with this high exposure of pornography is way more damaging than we can realize. So the first step is pornography is very much like alcoholism or even a drug addiction. The only difference is that it's much cheaper and it's not obvious. I mean, if you've got a drinking problem, you're drunk, or you've got that red face, or, it's a lot easier. Your family will maybe have an intervention on your alcohol abuse problem. Raise your hands, who of you have had a porn intervention? It just doesn't happen. The reality is that it is so commonly consumed that it is regarded as normal. And to be honest, maybe with adults, it's not as big a deal. But young men who are going through puberty and overexposed to porn, I'm going to tell you, but let me take my hat off and tell you a story here. I mean, I can go to a strip club now and then and have a look and enjoy the ladies dancing. It takes me about an hour to look at women normally again. In other words, for about an hour after the strip show, I am in that mindset. I'm worried about our youngsters are they not staying in that mindset with overexposure during puberty? And we've got a lot of articles on our site that links to a lot of people that are a lot brighter at this topic than I am. But there is some really good research that porn addiction is real. And you do become that. And once a young man is addicted to porn at a young age, the chances of him being a good father or a good man or a good employee or running a good business drops in the same way it does if you're an alcoholic. So a young person with open internet access, you might as well just give them liquor in their room and say, drink whiskey at night before you go to bed. Now, I know it's not always a nice topic when we come to it because we just want to make stuff work. From here, we decided we're tackling this and we're going to make this a free add-on for everybody in the world on MikroTik. So we have, thanks to the new world of big data, have some solutions that you can take your MikroTik and turn it into what we fondly call it the enforcer, but it's a MikroTik content filter. I'm going to touch on a couple of the things, a couple of the points now. I'm going to go through my slides. Clean internet is defined as 3 different areas. Under the age of 13, very specific type of internet access. We have got clean internet for around about 700,000 kids, I believe, indirectly using our product to keep them away from adult content. Quite simple, very important, and it's based on MikroTik, or it's the MikroTik OS. The second level is teenagers, because that's where you talk about social media, and that's the next topic I'm going to touch on. How to manage the social media component for teenagers to get into it. Under 13, social media should be a no-no. I'm going to talk about that now. And then the third level is actually security. I met some of you in the street on the way here. Guy drove into the back of me, jumped out, and window washers all around me. And, you know, everyone thinks you're about to get hijacked and get robbed. And I despise hijackers. I have no respect for criminals. I mean, I don't think too many of us do. But a criminal, like a hijacker, I have more respect for than a hacker hacking in to networks, deploying ransomware, and demanding money. Because at least the hijacker puts his body on the line. Granted, he doesn't have respect necessarily for your body, and you're not going to die necessarily from a ransomware guy. But this is a real threat. Now, if you are in the business of connecting people up, we cannot ignore these 3 areas. Clean internet for under 13, clean internet for teenagers, and clean internet for business. Remote access into networks is becoming more and more prevalent. I'm sure if you guys are in the security game, you've all got clients that have been hit by ransomware. And of course, you probably can't even talk about it because it's a huge embarrassment. Now, a bit like I'm struggling to talk about the porn aspect, what is just as difficult is talking about you got hacked. So if you get hacked, and say somebody's now got ransomware on you, and they were demanding this, whether it's your business or in your personal capacity, and you confide in a friend, you know what they're probably going to say is, yeah, you clicked on that email, you didn't keep your software up to date, it's your own fault and you deserve it. Can you hear me without this thing? Okay, I'll take a sip. So this business, that clean internet, we look away and we just look at the benefits of it, is a problem. So I've touched on ransomware, I've touched on security. My colleague is going to be presenting at 2 o'clock in detail on how we can use your MikroTik to clean it up and reduce the risk of malware, ransomware, and unauthorized remote access into your networks. Social media. Social media is, I'm anti-social media. In fact, I uninstalled Facebook, not Facebook, I never had that, WhatsApp 3 years ago, just because I can't handle it. In fact, it was just after I uninstalled reading the news. But personally, I know myself, affirmation and on social media doesn't work for me, and I'm a grown man. I don't like being in a group and cracking a joke and no one laughs. It upsets me. So I deleted it. But our youngsters that are in school are exposed to affirmation dependency all the time. And when I went to school, when was the risk of being bullied or wanting approval from your peers? It's, you'd walk to school, there was playtime at school, and you'd come home on your bicycle. Those were really the 3 times that you had to interact with potentially bad influences. And what are the bad influences? It's a bully, it's being bullied, or witnessing, being a witness to a bullying. These are the 3 things none of us as parents want our kids to be. But yet, if we connect them to social media, they don't have exposure to this 3 times a day. They have exposure to this in their beds at night when they're meant to sleep. So our poor kids are being thrown into the deep end of potentially 24/7 bullying or being bullied or witnessing bullying. And we just look the other way and go, we hope that's not really a problem. And the reason is usually because we feel that managing is probably too difficult. Maybe that's the reason. Or we just don't appreciate how bad the problem is. So another thing with content is not just be able to block content, is to time it. So for me, it's quite simple. Teenagers, you manage their exposure, just like you do with TV or PlayStation. You don't let anybody sit and do this 10 hours a day. It's not good for them. And the reason social media is not good for them is because they become affirmation junkies. How do you raise strong, independent young men or women if they are dependent, they can't make a decision without affirmation? Or they are bullied down into not even believing that they can? Or they witness bullying and they don't want to be that person, so they back down. This is not what we expose our kids to. What we are adding for MikroTik here is time-based rules, nice and simple. Facebook, social media, block it for, or allow it for 1 hour a day, or whatever that parent wants to do. But I hope I'm getting the message across here that we don't look at the internet as just the benefits. It comes with high risks. I want to touch on some of these stats. What did I do there? So, I think it's in the UK, porn is viewed, 10% of the porn consumed, as in downloaded, is viewed by kids under the age of 10. 53% of kids have had multiple hours of porn exposure, I can't remember the exact number, before they've even kissed a girl or a boy or whichever. So this is the introduction of our youngsters into the world, is this high exposure. So we can't stop it. We can only manage it and insist that everywhere around there's management. I mean, I joke about the mug and bean. We go to the mug and bean, there's TVs on. I don't sit in the mug and bean, and I pretty much expect that there won't be pornography on the screens. But yet there'll be free internet, and at many of them, there's pornography on the internet. So what's the difference, guys? So I'm asking you to, or at least I'm providing, a service and a tool, and it's a free add-on for MikroTik OSs that allows you to manage and spot all of the bad things that we can see. And we need your assistance in this. Thanks to big data and the new world, I'm going to tell you how we're able to do this. I really should synchronize my screens so they look the same, because this is quite daunting. Ugh, bugger it. I'm giving up on that thing, I'll just talk. Okay. Ransomware is a very tricky problem in in businesses. Now, everyone's got a bring your own device scenario. Some businesses stop access to their network from a bring your own device. And the answer is, don't allow it. That is a security risk. But what the reality is, more and more people are bringing them in. If you're using more and more cloud services, you're probably finding you're punching direct connections through your firewalls more and more. Proxy servers are great ways of managing things, but they're very cumbersome to configure because you're forever in the IT battle of trying to get everything to work with your proxies. So holes are punched in firewalls for this cloud service or that cloud service all the time. That's great, but the problem with these holes that are punched is it allows for these ransomware, or shall I say these malware connections, to phone home. Now, a user might have their phone or their laptop and they can get infected due to no fault of their own by accidentally clicking an email. And I say that's not a fault, that's the hacker taking advantage. Then maybe your firewall at the office does stop the phone home connection. But when they go home, the phone home connection occurs. Takes the average hacker 90 or 180 days, in that range, to actually take control of your system. A lot of us, probably sitting in this room, have been compromised. But maybe nothing has happened purely because you just don't have enough money. You're just not a target worthwhile. So many people are compromised, and you spot this when you have visibility on your internet. So when you falsify your MikroTik, there's meaningful reports. And we show the connections that are going, what we call very suspect, or these phone home connections. So at the very least, you can spot which machines are trying to do these nefarious connections. And that enables you to then deploy or get somebody else or whoever it is. But visibility on this is the first step. You can block it, obviously, or address it. But addressing it is obviously the answer, else it'll go home and phone home there. So security is vital when it comes to ransomware, because ransomware almost always is from software phoning home. Paul's going to touch on this later. We've got the DGA methods of malware is still as prevalent as it was in 2016. Very popular because it circumvents so many firewalls. With the MikroTik Enforcer, you can spot it. And I'll tell you quite simply how this works. You log onto our portal, you make an account, and you log in and you download an install script for MikroTik OS. That install script literally just routes the DNS over a VPN that comes to us. That DNS server applies a profile which is configured on the portal. Block porn at these times, block Facebook at that time, whatever the profile is. And it does DNS poisoning over the VPN so that profile follows whatever's been configured. NetFlow is enabled, or traffic flows on MikroTik is enabled. That is also sent through. Full meaningful reporting and visibility is shown on that NetFlow, but not in terms of IPs and ports alone, actually in terms of categories and domains, which if you work with NetFlow can be quite tricky to get. So that is all included in this aspect. Once you've got that visibility, you can then spot these ransomware type connections or manage the content filter for the kids. When we experimented with this, we actually had a whole bunch of these small little enforcers, and very quickly we had the daddy bypass filter added into the script. So in other words, you can put, because MikroTik's got powerful queuing, prioritization. So we've included that in the script on the MikroTik. So when you install this, you can have everyone have fast internet. One's watching Netflix, and the one is downloading, and the other one is trying to play a game. All possible on MikroTik with the queuing capability the RouterOS has. And it works beautifully. And you can add certain IPs and MACs that do not have the filter by just taking them out of that. You might go, well, DNS filtering is a bit old school. It is old school. But it does work for the non-technical client. Unless you've got a rooted phone, it's a bit difficult to put a host entry in or change the DNS server or that kind of thing. But with our enforcer, within 5 minutes, if there's NetFlow traffic that shows the content filter is being circumvented for whatever reason, it sends a kill list to that MikroTik, which is basically an IP list of blocks. And it says, this connection, kill it. So at my house, 8 o'clock, Netflix must end. And it ends at 8 o'clock. Within 10 minutes, even though the DNS flicks over virtually just after 8, 15 minutes later, the stream is still going, or it'll keep going because it's a movie. It could be an hour. Once the stream starts, DNS filtering isn't going to stop it. But within 15 minutes, that kill list comes down and kills that connection off. And then the TV's dead and the kids go to bed. So that is a nice example of a convenient way to kill off Netflix. But that's also how we kill off those ransomwares on your MikroTik. So think about it. Your MikroTik, all it has to do is push DNS over the VPN, set up the NetFlow, and accept the rule base of what to kill, as we call it, a kill list. And it's also very good at managing torrents in the same way. And now, how does this actually happen? All that NetFlow comes into our cloud, and we are receiving a couple of, I don't know how many terabytes a day of that. And we have what we internally call RouterOS. Anybody know what RouterOS means? There we go. Do you remember that on TV2 back in the day? RouterOS. Anyway, so RouterOS analyzes and keeps our database up to date. So RouterOS browses every single host every day. In fact, RouterOS currently browses 10,000 hosts an hour, and it picks up anywhere between 200 and 3,000 new porn sites an hour. That's RouterOS. The reason we built RouterOS is because downloading content filter lists is a problem. The free ones are not comprehensive, because the free ones just have Pornhub and those kind of ones. But the real porn addicts, they're laughing because it doesn't work. And then the good content filters are very expensive, especially for us in South Africa. The big ones come out of Israel and the US, and their billing is extremely expensive. We don't charge. Ours is good, it's comprehensive, and it's free. So you can go along, plug into the solution, use it, and it's a free system. That cloud core MikroTik that we saw up on the screen a little earlier on, that is ideal for ISPs who have central breakouts. Because on that, one can have literally thousands of profiles, and each of your clients can actually manage their own profile. So they can log on, and they can whitelist this too, and they can log onto your portal. There's an API even into this, and you can say, stop this at this time, or give it to them to do. And it all gets done on RouterOS and our install scripts, which is all open. You can download it and see it. You can try it out. Our team is very accessible. We love talking to you on Hangouts. Get onto Hangouts, talk to us, ask us about it. We will always do our best to assist you. As long as you know what you're doing on MikroTik, we will gladly help you. So that's really, as long as that makes sense to you, then it makes sense to us to help you with that. The content we've only got 5 or 6 categories. And it's quite simple. It's based on what I perceive through kids of my own and at school and at businesses. And it's literally simple. Gambling, gaming, adult, torrents, and recently the untrustworthy DGAs and fake banking sites. Of course, and anonymizers, thank you. We had to add anonymizers, which are the web-based anonymizers. So what was it, 2 years ago, RouterOS version 1 used to run. Now, we used to have all these ladies who are now obviously damaged by the porn that they've had to watch, checking RouterOS all the time manually. So I asked them to please browse the sites that it wasn't sure of. It was very simplistic RouterOS. I had to find it personally, that if it's got this and that, then it's probably porn, then go here. But there was a language barrier and all these aspects that wasn't that good yet. And on top of that, the ladies in the team convinced Lucid View management that because of it, they need to go to spas every 2 weeks to de-stress, because it's so stressful browsing all of this. Yeah, we had to only hire women because the guys were just too enthusiastic. But that said, jokes aside, it actually was quite stressful because You know, what you define as adult and porn is probably what I used to define as that, and it's quite tame. It's, you know, it's porn. But there's a lot more in porn. That's a very broad term now. I don't want to talk about it, but it involves animals, involves swings, trees. There's a whole lot out there. But thanks to big data, RouterOS 2 was born not too long ago, and all the massages and the therapy treatments stopped because now it is totally AI. So what happens is RouterOS 2 learned from RouterOS 1, and it's now programmed to find similar. So as soon as a site pops up, it finds similar. It's crossed hundreds of languages. We are pretty confident in this. So our content filter database, it's not about how big it is. It's more about how quickly it learns. And at this stage, it's around about an hour turnaround. So in other words, if we learn about a new host, RouterOS independently goes to that host, analyze it, and it should update if it's a match within an hour. We also do use the Google API on the known malware sites, just for convenience and reporting sake, so that you can also see who's connecting to known malware sites. But our big one is the torrent blocker. Torrents are a very difficult thing to block, especially if you want to do gigabits of traffic and you don't want to do content inspection. So that's where we're able to pick up the torrents just from the NetFlow logs alone and actually send back the kill lists. What we can't distinguish between is torrents versus dark web versus phone home hackers. We have suspicions, but as long as you're willing to block all of those three, then you can have a very safe business environment. Because that remote hacker, at most, is going to be in your network for half an hour, 15 minutes, for however long the NetFlow takes to get to us, processed, and get the kill list back. And as I said, hackers need 180 days or 90 days if you, I don't believe that one, but yeah, depends on that. Half an hour is going to be great. And you can decide whether you want to do the kill list or do honeypots or do whatever you want. Hope I'm making sense here, guys. Okay. Last thing I want to show you. I'm going to try this and hope I don't bugger it up. All right, here we go. This is what it's all about. On our website, I'm showing you over here, that slide has the links of the various topics I spoke about, directly to articles specifically around the porn problem we've got on our website. See the live demo. You can literally go there, put your email address in, you're given an account. You can browse around and see what you think. Tell us what you like. Like, for example, we had, I don't see him here today, from the UK, who are the ones that actually asked us to add the gaming category. So we've only got a handful of categories, and if there are more ones and new ideas and we get feedback from you, we'll definitely try and up our game in that space. But it's all about your feedback and how you use it. And I would like to at least have everyone here know that every internet connection you put out there, you have a way of, at almost no cost to yourselves or your customers, to give them clean internet with a huge reduction in remote access or unauthorized access via the methods that I spoke of with the phone home connections, and clean internet for the kids. With multiple profiles. I don't know how many profiles we've got on our centralized one, but we've got an example of one ISP who has one large core MikroTik, I think 10 default configs, and thousands of clients. And they literally just put the client on which profile do they want. Do you want the kid-friendly one, the parent-friendly one? Which one do you want? And they all pull their own reports. From our solution, visibility obviously is key to everything. So on here, you can go to the portal, you can schedule daily reports, weekly reports, monthly reports. Where did the bandwidth go? Was it Windows updates? Was it torrents? Was it Android? Was it Pornhub? Whichever one you want to see, the reports are there. So I encourage you, enjoy it. It's the modern world. Thanks to big data, we can do this. And we've crossed the tipping point where we're able to provide this as a free service. And that is our contribution back to the community that makes us feel good. And now I've just got to figure out how to get the hijackers off the road. Guys, if there are any questions, we are around. As I said, got Porner sitting over there. We're all good. Thank you very much.